Another thing you're going to see as this goes on is I learn from wrestling tournaments. I grew up wrestling, I coach wrestling now, I host tournaments now. We have a big tournament that we host every January, and it has about 300 competitors in it. We have 5 wrestling surfaces, and so it's a big tournament for us, for a small program to be running. It's a big tournament for one person to be, in charge of with their parents group. You always have your volunteers and your parents groups helping out and stuff. But to be honest with you, it's something that gives me a lot of experience running these events, putting these things together, the experience of putting out fires, the experience of understanding when things go wrong, how to fix them, and the understanding of what little things, what little changes you can do that'll implement people's expectations of the tournament, how things will run, where they know how to get there, how they know when they're going to go, where they're going to go. Those are all the little things that we need to do. So the wrestling tournament was a big experience builder for me running this tournament. I started with 64 people because according to the other studio, that's what they were working with, was 64. Spoiler alert, I did not get 64 people, and I'm so glad we didn't. So I will skip all the breakdowns from 64 and get right to it. I had about 64 people plugged into this tournament for 2 or 3 months, and then from that point, it wasn't until about 2 weeks before that where I was like, okay, it's time to throw in the towel. You're not going to get 64 people. So then we broke it down to 32 people. It was actually, we broke it down to 24, and I figured out a way to write the tournament to 32 people and then work in however many up to 32 I could do. So I'll show you guys that. I wanted to stream each game, have announcers, and show the players as they competed. I wanted to live stream it to both our station and our YouTube page. And honestly, that sentence in my pen and paper drawing seemed easily done. I don't know what it was I thought about it, but I just said, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't that be possible? And then when we break it down what happened, I'll explain exactly where everything had to change and what we figured out where the problems were. So let's talk about the brackets. So this is where my wrestling tournament background comes into play. So my wrestling buddies, if you're watching, you'll know what I'm talking about. I actually thought of this as a team tournament with pools A, B, C, and D, and then 2 groups within each pool. So if you're a wrestling tournament person, you've competed in a team tournament, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Your teams fall into a pool, and then depending on, you wrestle this guy and this guy and this guy, and then when your teams finish, depending on how you do, if you take first, you go up here into this bracket, and then everyone who takes first in the other pools, they all go into that bracket as well, right? My thoughts were this. You played in the first, what I called the seeding round. It was a Grand Prix, and depending on how you finished in the Grand Prix against your competition, either first, second, third, or fourth, you would move on to the placement round. Now the placement round is against everyone who placed the same as you in the seeding round. So everyone who took first in groups A and B competed, and everyone who took first in groups C and D would compete. And the same thing for the people who took third and fourth. So if you were in the A or B group, and you took first, you guys were playing. If you took second, you guys were playing third and fourth. And then the C and D groups, same thing. If you took first, you guys were all playing second, third, and fourth. You were all playing. So this is the seeding round to the placement round. So the final round became a one-on-one race for the top 16 finish. If you think about it this way, all I really cared about was getting to the top 16. I didn't write the tournament to have everyone place and everyone get awards and everyone get everything. All right, everyone got a token for registering, but then the top 16 got that coin. So if you took first or second in that first seeding round, you were put into the top 16. And then from your top 16 finish in that placement round, that's where you actually placed, whether you were a top 4 finisher, a middle 4, a bottom 4, or even the bottom 8, right? So the final round became a one-on-one race for their top 16. If in your seeding round you took first or second, you were considered in the top 16. Then depending how you placed in your placement round Grand Prix was where you, amongst the top 16, you fell against the one-on-one other person left with the same record as you. This is where things got, for me, the most prideful, my Excel sheet. There are 2 parts to this Excel project. What I will call the metadata sheets and then the presentation sheets. Now, I understand that metadata is probably not exactly what I'm talking about, but you'll see why I call it that. The data that goes into these sheets build the presentation sheet, so I'm going to use metadata. The first metadata sheet is in the registration information, which has their names and anything I thought the announcers might find useful to talk about. So I had 2 announcers on the event, and what I did was I knew that announcers were going to need fill time. So I had people fill in all sorts of information about themselves so that the announcers could actually talk about them in a fun, informative way. So, what kind of gaming fuel do you like to eat? What game got you into gaming? What Mario Kart character is your favorite character? What's your, favorite, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, all that information went on the first sheet. Then it's basically a bunch of the same formula, which was equal sign, single quotation, the page that you're going to, single quotation, exclamation point, and then the cell. So whether it was B7, C7, whatever it was, the cell that you needed the information from. So those are the formulas, and basically that formula got copy and pasted in all sorts of ways throughout the entire Excel sheet. The name was used to fill in the metadata sheet in round 1. So on the information sheet, the name column was used to fill in the metadata sheet for round 1. Now I'm going to bounce between the metadata sheet and the presentation sheet I'm calling the tournament. So you can see how every change affects everything. As you look at the metadata, you'll see a block holds up to 4 names and their round 1 score. My mistake here was having the tournament sort based on highest to lowest scoring. So basically, the name at the top was the highest score and therefore first. The idea being that I was going to type in the final scores of the Grand Prix into the brackets. During the tournament, it did not work out that way. If I was to do it again, I would place the lowest score on top so that I can type 1 for first place, 2 for second, 3 for third, and 4 for fourth. So as I sorted, first place would appear on top and fourth place would appear on bottom. Right now, the way I have to do it is take the person who took first and give them the designation 4 so that they would appear on top, and then the person who took last would appear on bottom. Once sorted, you'll see the tournament page fills in round 2, and the round 2 metadata sheet is also filled in accordingly. So everyone who took first in A and B are playing, everyone who took first in C and D are playing on, and so on and so on. The final 2 rounds are done the exact same way and affect the tournament sheets the exact same way. So as the tournament starts to form and as you start to play through it, that's where you can actually start to see the tournament take place, and it starts to sort itself out as you go forward. The next lesson I took from running wrestling tournaments was putting up the brackets. So every wrestling mom in the country knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I had to create a printable sheet for people to follow each round, because it's not an easy tournament to follow and I need to figure out a better way to format it, but I had to create a generic sheet. This just helps explain to people what they're looking at. But I will say, as people began to understand it, I think it became clearer and clearer the more experience with the brackets may be the solution. I'll let you know once we try it again whether or not I find a better solution, or if just more and more times that we play this way, people will just understand it better. But basically, I created this so no one had experience with it, including myself or any of the people that had run tournaments in the past. So it was a brand new idea, brand new concept. So I don't know, maybe if we keep doing it, people will read the brackets better. After I had each round printed out, I added an estimated time and what station people will be at. This was huge. And this was also from wrestling. Where and when am I playing? The only thing any player cares about. In wrestling, we tell people when they're going to be wrestling and what mat they're going to be on. For us, it became what time you're going to be playing and then also what station you're going to be at. So we started 30 minutes late. That's just because people coming in after work, the tournament started at 6 p.m. and people coming in didn't finally finish up and arrive until about 6:30. We did nail the Grand Prix timing, which was about 20 minutes per Grand Prix, so every round took about 40 minutes with the 4 TVs running at once. The breaks we added were, we had breaks in between each round, which was about 5 minutes planned for of the breaks. But the breaks ended up being about 10 minutes once we got everyone to sit back down and start playing again. So with that, 3 breaks were planned during the tournament, each one being about 10 minutes, pushed us another half an hour late, just based on the fact that it doubled our time that we expected. The final round was about 5 minutes per race, and we did it only on 3 TVs. Then we also had the final 2 races on TV B, so that the top 4 competitors would be highlighted by themselves. And that worked out really well. Everyone stayed after the tournament, and they actually watched the finals happen. So literally we had another like 20 people in the room cheering on the 2 finalists, which was really cool. In total, we arrived at 6 p.m. We started at 6:30 and we ended around 8:40. So if you think, it was about 2 hours, 40 minutes total runtime.